All right, good afternoon, guys. This is Nathan Essery here from Missouri Farm Bureau Insurance, presenting today on behalf of Spanish Lake Blacksmith Shop, Forestell, Missouri, doing a shop talk. Today, we will be discussing a handful of business topics that seem to be overlooked a lot in not just the industry of farriers, but in a lot of small business industries as well. So a couple of topics we're going to talk about today. Proper business filings, how to do it, why to do it, what it does for your business, proper business insurance and commercial auto insurance, why you need it, what it does for you, and how it can protect you. The tax benefits and realistic benefits of having life insurance and disability insurance. And the final part that hopefully brings some great value to you guys in the farrier industry is creating route density, valuing your service appropriately, and networking with other farriers. So first topic we're going to talk about today is proper business filings. I know that I have worked as a consultant in several other industries, as well as providing a full line of risk management services in the state of Missouri to small businesses. And one of the biggest things that we have run into when dealing with small businesses is that Nathan decided to start a business and he just started doing it. You know, in this case of being a farrier, I just decided, hey, I'm gonna call a blacksmith shop and I'm gonna get some supplies and I'm gonna start shoeing horses. So that's a great way to do it if you're already trained and ready to present yourself in that serviceable manner. But from the business side, the very first thing you want to make sure you do is file the appropriate LLC or corporation or S Corp through the state of Missouri if you're here, or the state that you live in. The first and main benefit you're going to gain from this is being able to distinguish yourself as a legitimate business. I know that a lot of people think once you start providing a service that you are under special tax codes and legal filings with the states. There's a lot of benefit to being a legally filed business. The first and easiest way to do it is to go to your Secretary of State website. You can file an LLC online. It's super easy. It doesn't require any legal consult due to being a sole proprietor. It can get a little bit tricky if you have partners or if you're trying to do this in addition to some additional business. But in the realm of a sole proprietor or a single person trying to perform a business, a single sole proprietor LLC is the easiest way to file it. It also has a lot of great tax implications. So sidebar, I would definitely recommend finding yourself a great CPA or somebody in your town that specializes in small business taxes. You would be surprised what having the correct tax code and tax filings does for your margins at the end of the year. And that's a great thing when you can realize a couple thousands of dollars because you filed things correctly. I know I can't speak for every state in the United States, but specifically in the state of Missouri, it only costs $50 to file an LLC and get your own tax ID number online. You can do it all through the Secretary of State website and through the IRS filing site. I would warn you to beware if you go on to Google and you search for these things and it will pull up links for paid ads. And if you click on them and you fill out all the info and you get to the end and ask you for your credit card, a lot of times it's a service. It's going to charge you $200 or $300 and charge you another $200 to get you an EIN number. None of it is real. You do all your own same thing for a lot cheaper. Next, or I should say the next piece of that is the separation that LLC brings to you or that corporation brings to you from your personal holdings is that from a business standpoint, when you're functioning in the world of horseshoeing and farriers, that if there was ever an issue that was to arise in your business dealing as a sole proprietor with no business filings, no LLC or S Corp filed, then really you're leaving your personal assets, your home, your autos, your pension, whatever, your savings, whatever you have stuck under your name is open game for the other party and their legal team. So creating an LLC is quick, it's easy, it can be done in 15 minutes or less online, and it creates that entity that says you're functioning in this regard doing business, and it helps protect your basic assets from your business dealings. The next thing I want to talk about is proper insurance. We're going to start with a couple of notes on business insurance and what that looks like. I personally do know farriers who do not carry insurance at all because they don't understand what it would do for them, and they had never really thought that it was something they needed. But if you'll look to your screen right here, here's a mock-up quote I did for a customer. Tom's Farrier Service, LLC, as you'll notice, he is a registered business with the state of Missouri. I have done this for, I could not even tell you, 30 plus lawn care companies in the last 2 years. I do that a lot in that small lawn care landscaping style business scape. This is the first thing everyone wants to know. Before you get into coverage is, what does it cost? If you look right here where my cursor's at, a full-term premium for a farrier's business policy, and this can go up or down based on the types of coverages you carry, but a basic one is under $300 a year. So that's going to vary based on your area, your fire protection district, the amount of equipment that you're covering. But I'll go through everything real quick so that you have an idea of what this looks like. You can see the breakdown. If you pay monthly, it's only $24 a month. Very affordable, and most definitely needed when you're regarding the types of coverages your business will need. Let me scroll down to some of the hot topics. Right here, this is the biggest one, liability. This section, $1 million liability per occurrence, up to $2 million a year in aggregate. So you have a $2 million policy and up to a $1 million liability limit per occurrence. That is literally to protect you for anything that can happen in your business that would be brought against you that could be your fault. This is the most important part about having business insurance. Is, you know, a lot of times when you're shooting horses, you might be at a property by yourself, you might be in a barn by yourself, you might be out in the middle of a field by yourself, and you're dealing with someone's animal. And I don't have a ton of experience with horses, but I know I have clients now that have horses that range from $2,000 up to $1 million. So I know that when you're dealing with a horse, that can be a very, very stressful moment, depending on your situation, where you choose to shoot those horses at, and your surroundings. You have liability insurance that covers that horse or the environment, the barn, everything around you is covered were to make a mistake and something were to happen. That is the most important part of this policy. The next one is also a really important part. It's medical expense coverage. That is adjustable. It's set right now at $5,000. I range mine anywhere from $5,000 to $25,000. And this coverage is the coverage that's going to cover you and anyone in the vicinity, whether it be the owner of the horse or a helper, an assistant, a farmhand, anyone that might be around that could potentially sustain medical injury during the process of shoeing horses. This is a piece of the policy that pays out prior to getting into the liability. So, for instance, you have a farmhand throwing hay in a barn, horse that's in your care, custody, and control gets out of control, hits the kid, knocks him over, hurts him, sends him to the hospital. Your policy will have coverage that can reach out and help pay for that farmhand's medical expenses before it ever has to get to your liability insurance. So it's a great coverage to have, and it's included in all of our policies. So it really just makes sense to have one of these in place, for any instance that you might find yourself in. The next part of this that we're going to reach down and touch on, there's a couple of options here. Number one is business personal property. This policy has it set at $5,000. Business personal property is very confusing to some people who aren't familiar with the verbiage of insurance. I've had clients say, well, just put it under my business personal property, and then that's good enough coverage. This coverage limit, and it applies to all insurance, no matter what company you're with, business only extends to the premise at which you have your location listed. So in this case, he lives at 123 Horseshoe Lane in St. Charles, Missouri. That is his home address. That's where his shop's at. That's, his garage, his barn, his shed, whatever he works out of. This number only applies to items located at this address, which if you're like anyone who cuts grass or shoes horses in any other regard, most of your business takes place off premise at someone else's location. So that's a very important thing to remember when you're scheduling your items. There's another portion of the policy we'll get to that's listed as inland marine, and that coverage lists all your tools, all of your property that leaves your property and goes to work somewhere else. I'll touch on that again here in a second. The deductible, this is an important one. There's two facets to the deductible. It's $500. If your policy ever pays out anything in regard to you, damage to your property, things that are lost, stolen, damaged in the line of work, then you have a $500 deductible that can replace just about anything you have. If you have a situation that involves your liability, where you did something incorrectly or you were negligent and it caused an accident, caused a door to break, it caused a tractor to roll out of a barn and catch fire, you don't have a deductible. That is just liability insurance, and that's something that your agent should be able to walk you through and be able to help you navigate that claim. The other limit that I want to touch on here is a great one, and it's not offered by a lot of companies, which kind of makes us a little bit unique in what we can do. But our equipment breakdown coverage is for any equipment that you may have at your shop. And a very odd scenario here is that this coverage does cover things such as furnaces and air conditioners. If you do not have this coverage, you will not have any type of coverage on a surface or a furnace unit or an air conditioner for your home or your shop, whichever location you're using for your business. And I can speak to this because I have had a few clients who run a home-based business, and they've got an air conditioner on their 50 by 100 shop, and that's kind of where they run their little blacksmith shop out of as their home base. And lightning strikes, it happens all across the Midwest very frequently. Lightning strikes, hits the air conditioner, fries the unit or the compressor, just destroys it. Normally, that wouldn't be covered under normal insurance because it's just a lightning strike, and it really is hard to pinpoint that it caused the compressor to malfunction or whatever it may be in the air conditioning unit furnace. But in this case, you have equipment breakdown coverage, which leads up to $25,000 worth of coverage that can help get you back running. Because we all know that it's very difficult to work in a metal building in the summer without some sort of air flowing. So that's a great coverage to have. And if you look over here, it's only $4 a year. So it's an amazing option to have. And it really helps you out in the event that something happens. This is the section for inland marine. There's a lot of different numbers thrown in here. Most of them you'll see are just zero. There is a section that we called scheduled tools. This is where you would list all of your tools out. It's pretty easy for one of you guys to take a look at your truck or your trailer or your shop and pick out what you have on the shelf and what it would take to replace that if something happened to it. And there's any number of things that would be considered covered perils, everything from theft, fire, wind, tornado, weather, anything of that such that would affect your ability to do your job based on your tools not being available. You have coverage for that. Again, it's just a $500 deductible. In this case, we threw just a $10,000 limit of tools on there. That number can vary. Some people may only have 3,000 or 4,000. Some people may have 20,000. And you can kind of see for the amount of coverage you have, 10,000, it's only $117 a year to cover it. It's relatively cheap and affordable to keep coverage on that much equipment. And this is kind of a flat number. So if you wanted to do $20,000 worth of coverage, you could pretty much just double this number over here. It's going to be about, $230 or so. That is it for the business policy. Before we move on to the next section, the last thing I wanted to talk about with commercial insurance was commercial auto insurance. I know that the Farrier industry is much like the lawn care industry in that it has some pretty awesome tools, a lot of unique things that are very specific to your industry, and a lot of it fits in a trailer very well. I've seen some really cool design trailers that are set up for horseshoeing on location. And making sure that you have that piece of equipment properly listed and properly covered under commercial auto insurance for your business is almost a must in every regard, as well as your truck. So the first thing I want to talk about with that is making sure that you have the proper coverage. There are numerous companies and numerous instances I could bring up where clients, answer the questions on an application. They just started a business or decided they were going to use their personal vehicle for business. In your case, as a farrier, you're loading up your tools in your truck or your trailer. You're driving up to someone's farm, and you're shoeing 10 horses. And in that regard, you are functioning as a business commercially. So if you're using personal trucks, personal trailers, and you don't have commercial rated vehicles, if you're in an accident, there could potentially be a hiccup with your claims adjuster where they may deny your claim because you were acting in a way that was not listed on your policy because it's a personal policy. I've seen this happen with some of the larger companies. They get into a big fight to fight it because they said Jay's Lawn Care was not covered commercially and he's operating a business with his trucks and his trailers, and therefore his claim is not covered. So definitely want to make sure that you have that option. I can't speak to the ratings or the cost analysis for other companies, only my own. I know that Farm Bureau is incredibly competitive with our commercial ratings. In most cases, we're about the same cost, if not sometimes cheaper, to commercially rate vehicles than personally. And there is some reasons for that. Very specifically, if you're a business owner and you're running a business out of your vehicle, most of the time you're driving in a much better manner than the 18-year-old, Johnny who just got out of high school and he's driving his Dodge Ram down the highway, acting erratically. So they know that as a business owner, you have responsibility. They know that you're trying to have a family or responsibilities for yourself. So there are some definite benefits on the cost saving side. The other side of that is if you have a great CPA, like I recommended earlier, you can actually write off all of your vehicle insurance and cost expenses throughout the year. Same with your business insurance, with your life insurance, any type of benefit that is afforded to you as the owner of the company. So there's a lot of benefits for you financially if done correctly through a CPA. Again, some of that does come back to being filed as a business correctly. So that $50 filing fee with the state can really save you a lot of money if done correctly in the long run. The next thing we're going to talk about, guys, is life insurance. This is something that I think that most normal people don't like to sit through. Nobody loves to have the conversation about life insurance, but as business owners, it's kind of in the forefront of our mind when you think about what if something happened to me today at work or tomorrow at work, and I'm the breadwinner for the family, or in some cases, the sole income for a family. How do I make sure that my family's taken care of? How does my legacy get passed on to my children or my wife? How does my house get paid for? And there's a couple of options. Right here, we're going to touch on a whole life or a permanent life. This one is a $100,000 policy. Cost is about $1,500 annually for a 40-year-old male. So it kind of lets you know the range. If you're in your 50s, it's a little more expensive. If you're in your 30s, it's a little bit cheaper, but gives you an idea of where to start. The reason we call this permanent life insurance or whole life is that it literally lasts until you die. Regardless of health or scenario, the price is always the same. It's always locked in, and you always have it. Now, one of the great pieces of this is if you don't have a financial planner who's helping you save for retirement, is that these policies can very, very correctly be used to save money, to gain interest, and to give you kind of a nest egg later on in life. You can essentially right now, if you're doing it correctly, if you have a great agent, such as myself, or hopefully anyone at Missouri Farm Bureau Insurance, we would be able to help you structure this in a way that allows you to write off your premium as a company-owned policy, and this being listed as an employee benefit. So this premium that you see here per year could very easily be written off in your taxes and help lower your taxable income while providing you the same level of benefit as a normal policy. Some of the great benefits of a whole life policy is that they do build cash value. I'm going to scroll through here real quick and just touch on it. All right, if you look right here in this column where my cursor's at, this is the 20 years in, so you're 60 years old if you bought this at the age of 40. It will have accumulated $28,674 worth of cash value. This is one of the tools I was discussing of how you're writing this off on your taxes every year as an employee benefit, but on the inside, it's building up cash for you later. The benefit when you get to 60 years old, you haven't yet, you're still living and going strong. You call me up and say, I'm done for horses. I want to cash in my policy. And within 2 or 3 days, we could have you a check and you could buy a bass boat and be on the lake. So that's a great way to stick money back. It earns some interest. It's a guaranteed with us, a guaranteed 4% interest. But historically, over the last 100 years, and we are a very financially secure company, we've actually been averaging between 4 and 8% on our returns. So there's a great way to stack some money back and get some awesome tax benefits in lieu of that as well. This last column right here, where it says $119,717, this column is the death benefit. So this would be the column that at 60 years old, right here, you did pass away. Say a horse kicks you in the head in a barn, you bleed out and die. This is what they cut a check to your family right there. So you know up front your family's going to receive a check back, help pay off the house, help get some bills under control, make sure that your family's taken care of through that process. And that's, like I said, it's a great way to help add some additional coverage to yourself for your business, gain some tax incentives, something else to write off, and right here, the key is to build up some cash value. All right, a lot of you, probably very much like myself, looked at this number and said, I like that $28,000 that it earned. That's great. But if I die, $119,000 doesn't do a whole lot for my family. I'll give you my personal scenario. I'm 35 years old. I've got an amazing wife and 4 boys who have run me ragged. I'm sure all of you are aware of how that feels. But in my case, $119,000 wouldn't go really far with 4 children. So there's an additional option, which can be tied to this policy as well. I'm going to click over to it now. This policy here is a term policy. It's a 20-year term. It is for $600,000. And that is what I would call the differentiating factor when you come to a death benefit. This policy can be added on to the previous one and add an additional $600,000 worth of coverage. So picked it up at 40, died at 60. The total payout would be $719,000. I'm not saying that's enough money to replace you, because there's no amount of money that can replace a member of a family, but that is enough money to hopefully set your family up for success in the transition. It really can help pass that tradition down for the family. If you have someone you've been training, to take over your Farrier business, if you have a son or a nephew or a friend that's been an apprentice, this can help set them up for success through that transition and make sure your family's taken care of. And you'll notice that these dollar amounts, the annual premium for this one and the other one combined, you'll see that number on a spreadsheet later that we're going to go over to help track expenses and hopefully help make your CPA's life a little easier when you go to claim this stuff on your taxes. The last 2 types of insurance I want to talk about with you guys real quick are long-term and short-term disability insurance. The main difference in long-term and short-term is the amount of time that insurance pays out as a benefit to you. Short-term is only 6 months, and long-term is anything 6 months or longer. The cost of those insurance varies greatly depending on the time of your life that you choose to purchase them. Generally, short-term disability coverage will run anywhere $50 or less a month. A long-term disability can be anywhere from $100 to $200 or more a month, depending on your age and your health conditions. But those are also great ways to write off earned income and also your family a level of protection that you otherwise would not have seen.
Can I ask you a question about this? All of the protections, all of the insurance that you've talked about and being able to write it off is pretty much dependent on your first topic, setting a person up as a business, right? To be able
That's
to write
correct.
all these things off. Okay.
Yeah, if you're not
Thank
a
you.
business, a CPA will not. If you don't have a business filing, they won't let you write off your insurance or sometimes your payments on your vehicle. They most definitely will not let you write off your life insurance or your disability insurance well. So there's, like I said, there's definitely a lot of tax benefits to that. If you're going to spend the money to gain the protection, you might as well spend the extra $50 and file an LLC so that you can write it all off on your taxes.
Thank you.
No problem. All right, guys. The last couple of topics have to do with small business. I will give you a rough background of myself and how I came to be into this side of the business world. I used to own a lawn care company, and so a lot of these things, when I speak on them, I'm speaking from personal experience. But one of the craziest things I ever heard of in the lawn industry, as well as in the Farrier industry, is the amount of miles that people drive between customers, and how those miles, or that windshield time, as I always called it, don't ever equate to the cost of doing business for that client. So the first thing I want to talk about is valuing your service appropriately. If you're in a market where you're shoeing, say, 25 horses a week, and you have a steady business where that's the standard flow, and you're charging $100 per horse, you kind of have an idea of how much money you're making and turning throughout each week and throughout the year. But if you break down the amount of drive time you have, say you live in St. Charles, Missouri, and in St. Charles you have 23 of your 25 horses right there, and you have to drive 30 minutes max from your house to any single customer. You kind of have an idea of how profitable you're being because you don't have a lot of drive time, but you immediately stop being profitable and you start losing money when that amount of windshield time increases. So it's something I've seen in the Farrier industry, and I've very, very commonly seen in the lawn care industry, is you'll be incredibly profitable through 75% of your business. And then 20, 25, 30% of your business, you start losing money and you don't really know why. And in a lot of cases with lawn care, it was because a guy in St. Charles decided he was going to take on an account in Warrenton, Missouri. And that's a 45-minute drive. And he only had one account, and he charged the same amount of money for that lawn as he did as the lawns in St. Charles. So by the time he drives 45 minutes out there, cuts the lawn in a half an hour or an hour, then drives 45 minutes back to town, he didn't antiquate the drive time into the pricing for that lawn. And very similarly in the Farrier world is if you're going to drive an extended amount of time to shoe a horse, you have to make sure that you're accounting for your drive time to and from that client so that you make sure you charge an appropriate amount. Now, there's another scenario that goes here. Someone said, well, I can't afford to lose that client. Well, I can give you an instance in the lawn care industry where we discussed, being profitable and creating route density. We had a client we worked with, and he was spread out over 3 counties. He had 100 lawns he mowed every week. He did about $125,000 a year, $150,000 a year in revenue, and he was busting his butt. He was driving all over the place. Like I said, 3 counties, St. Charles, Warren, Lincoln County, doing a ton of business. And at the end of the year, just didn't have enough to show for it. So we started working with him on cutting down some of those outlying accounts and creating a denser route. So he could create an efficient route where he worked, the same accounts daily, got all of them done each week, and worked at a much more efficient way and cut down his drive time. Well, within, I think, 4 weeks of cutting out all of his outlying accounts, he actually picked up the same number of accounts within 4 weeks to replace those accounts in his own service area. But previously, they were jobs that he would have passed on because he didn't have time to do them in his normal daily route. So sometimes when you have the ability to pick and choose who you're working with, try to work to create the densest route possible, the most amount of horses, the least amount of drive time, and the highest amount of profitability. At the end of the day, you have to be getting paid an appropriate amount for the professional service that you're providing. One of the other things I wanted to talk about today is networking. It's actually been a great passion of mine in the lawn care industry, now in the Farrier industry, and as well as insurance. And there's a lot of animosity that kind of comes, in certain industries where people feel like they're, why would I network with this guy? He's my competition. He's trying to undercut me. But at the end of the day, that there's so much value that comes from becoming friends or at least work acquaintances with your competition, that it helps everyone become more profitable. At the end of the day, we're all out there competing for the same jobs or the same horses or the same barns to try to get that work. But if you're connecting with farriers on a deeper level than just passing them at the supply shop or hearing about the terrible job that so-and-so did at another barn, then it gives you an opportunity to not only connect with them maybe on a different level of friendship, but also professionalism. And you can discuss pricing, you can discuss profitability, you can discuss technique. And I know in my passings in the lawn care industry, we've had so much growth in our industry just from the connections we've had with each other, that it actually has made everyone in our area, in our industry, a lot more profitable, because at some point we just started saying hey, who's still cutting yards for $20 when the going rate in the area is $40? One guy in the back raises his hand, and we all say, hey, why are you only cutting them for $20? And he's like, I just thought that was the rate. He just didn't know any better. And very similar to you guys that shoe horses is, the guy who's shoeing horses on one side of the street might be charging $65, and the guy on the other side of the street is charging $125. And if you never meet, you never talk, you never discuss business, then the guy who's charging $65 might not ever know that he's really undervaluing his service. And then he needs to be able to increase his price to a point that makes him more valuable. So there's a lot of benefits that come from networking. And touching back on my previous topic of creating route density, one of the biggest things we saw happen in the lawn care industry in the St. Louis area when we started networking with each other was that people started passing clients back and forth. The guy from St. Charles met two guys from Troy and another guy from Warrenton, and he said, hey man, I'm not coming out there anymore. I'm going to give you guys these 17 accounts I have. Those other guys would have never realized those customers because they didn't have a connection to them, but now they're connected to them. They've been referred in. They're going to start doing their job and taking care of that business for them. Well, in return, those guys immediately were like, well, hey, I just picked up 17 yards in Troy. I don't have time to go to St. Charles anymore. So now he has to drive less to accomplish the same amount. And in return, he handed the other guy, 12 accounts in St. Charles and said, hey, I can't do these anymore. I don't have time. So it was a great way to create a denser business model and a higher profitability margin. So at the end of the day, you spent less time driving, less fuel in the truck, less wear and tear on the vehicle, and ultimately made the same amount of money, which at the end means more profit margin in your pocket. So that's kind of what I would want to leave you with on that note, is value your service appropriately, try to create the most effective, efficient route, and make it as dense as possible so you accomplish the most amount of work in the least amount of time. That way you're making the most money, and maybe it may, frees up your Friday to go fishing or hunting or take the kids out. All right, the last thing I want to talk to you guys about is a tool that you will be able to find on the website. I think there's going to be a link to the talk video, as well as probably on the Facebook page. But this is a little business expense tracking tool that we have. And it allows you, this one is very, very customized to farriers. You'll see it talks about horseshoes. It talks about how many horses you have to shoe a week, or monthly or annually in order to achieve certain income levels. So all of these fields that are highlighted in blue, you'll see all the blue typing in them. That font means that it cannot be changed. None of them are editable. All of these fields that are green, you can edit yourself. So if you want to go over the expense items for business expenses, you can change those to read whatever you want to read, and then you can change the dollar amount to read whatever you're currently spending in your business. And then when you enter new numbers, you can just hit enter, and it will do all of the math. All the formulas are in there, and it will tell you, if I'm going to shoe horses for 50 weeks a year, I'm going to take 2 weeks of personal time for vacation or hunting or whatever you want to do, then I need to shoot 25 horses a week, and I need to charge $118 per horse in order to equal this amount of annual income. Gives you a full breakdown of all the expenses. These are very standard. If you look in here, there's health insurance, there's employment tax, there's life insurance, there's disability insurance, telephone. All of these things are included in this plan for you to tweak and customize. If you want to come in and edit any of these fields, change any of these amounts, and in some of these cases, shoeing supplies, you can hover your mouse over it and it will tell you some of the information about that field. In this case, the shoeing supplies, say you buy all of your product online from Spanish Lake Blacksmith Shop. They ship it all to you. You can call that supplier and ask them for a printout or a record of all the materials you purchased. They should be able to itemize all of that stuff down and send you a total bill letting you know what you spend each year, or even in some cases each month or each quarter on supplies. There's a lot of very interesting aspects to this tool because it allows you to calculate out what you're spending, some of which is even your personal. If you scroll down, you can look through personal expenses, mortgages, home insurance, clothes, food, retirement, vacation. There's a lot of little things stuck in here that can help you even budget to make sure that you're making the most of your money. And one of the biggest things I did want to touch on right here on this tool is it talks about health insurance, life, disability. All of those insurances are all tax deductible if you do it correctly through a properly filed business. So you want to make sure that you have a great CPA and a great insurance agent to make sure things are structured correctly so that you can make the most of your money. All right, guys, if you would like a copy of this spreadsheet to use as a tool to help manage your money and your business to become more profitable, be able to track some of your expenses, or just know where your money's going and why, you can reach out to Spanish Lake Blacksmith Shop online, or you can call their phone number. They also have a Facebook page. I think their website is SpanishLakeBlacksmithShop.com. You can reach out and request this. They'll send you a copy of it. I believe there's also going to be a link in the information section of this Shop Talk, so it can be clicked on. Also, I wanted to give you guys my information. If you have any questions regarding insurance, business filings, route density, profitability, creating structured margins, or just being able to track some of your business activity, I want you guys to know that I'm available almost any time. Feel free to shoot me a call or a text or an email. My cell phone number is 636-390-3446. And my email address is Nathan, Nathan, .Essary, ESSARY, at MOFB.com. Again, that's Nathan.Essary at MOFB.com. Love to hear from you guys. I'd love your feedback on the presentation. Or if you have any questions regarding insurance, business, life, health, disability, commercial auto, whatever, or even if you just want to discuss some business opportunities that we may be able to help you refine your process and be more profitable, I look forward to hearing from any of you. Thanks, guys. Have a great day.